From the land of frozen lakes, this is 10,000 Takes. Brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. And a lot to get into. The weather finally turned. We got that frigid temps that Minnesota is famous for. The lakes are starting to become frozen.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're finally able to use that line.
But use caution. As the DNR people tell me, ice is never 100% safe.
Well, that's true, as they found up on Red Lake.
Yes, and in Bemidji. So
yeah, a lot of places are happy to see the frigid weather finally arrive so they can drive their vehicles out onto those lakes. I'm not sure I would ever do that.
No, I wouldn't endorse it now. That's 4 inches just to walk on.
Yeah.
And then you go up from there.
Yeah, and rumor has it it's going to get warm next week, so here we go again.
Not complaining.
Yeah, I know you aren't. Well, is it any warmer out in Eagan where the Minnesota Vikings probably are grinding their teeth watching both the Packers and the Lions advance to the playoffs and then beyond the first round? I mean, these are teams that the Minnesota Vikings basically have been ahead of or dominated, particularly in the Lions' case, for years. Now, the Packers, that's been back and forth for the last several years, and their records against each other are relatively even. But, man, they got to be looking at those two teams, how young they are, and thinking to themselves, uh-oh.
Yeah, no question. Green Bay is the youngest team in the NFL. They appear, again, the Packers, to have found a generational quarterback.
Yes.
So they have the blueprint in Green Bay about how to do it with a quarterback. You know, get the young guy, let him develop behind a superstar. We saw Brett Favre behind Don Majkowski, and then Aaron Rodgers behind Brett Favre, and then Jordan Love behind Aaron Rodgers. It has worked in Green Bay, and it's no longer luck. They continue to repeat the process. Now, Detroit, definitely trending up. And watch out for the Chicago Bears. If they can make the right draft choices, they have the number 1 overall pick. I think Justin Fields should return. They've invested a lot in him. I think he will only get better. Maybe they will get him your guy, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Well,
that could be a heck of a tandem.
Oh, boy. Well, they played together in college.
They did. The Ohio State.
The Ohio State University. Okay. So that brings me to my Viking question for you. And we haven't seen them do this. Do they keep Kirk Cousins and then draft a quarterback so that this person can, learn under Kirk Cousins, a la what Jordan Love did with Aaron Rodgers? The Vikings have really never done that, not since Tommy Kramer did it under Frank Tarkenton. When's the last time they did this? I think that's the last time they did it.
Yeah, groom somebody under a veteran.
Exactly.
And that's the way it used to happen in the old school NFL. Quarterback comes in as a rookie, and unless he's, Dan Marino, he's on the sideline holding a clipboard for 2 or 3 years.
Or C.J. Stroud.
Well, now this year C.J. Stroud is the outlier with Houston, as your Cleveland Browns found out. He's outstanding. But, to me, when you're talking about Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, the two elephants in the room, right, for Minnesota, and then on the other side, Danielle Hunter. But I got to make my life cap flexible if I'm Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell. Yeah, these are great players, Cousins and J-Jets and Danielle. But I think they need to look in the mirror and realize we're in tear-down rebuild mode. And if you wait it where one of those guys or two of them eat up all of your cap, you're going to have the same problems continually repeat. If you can get something for these guys and build up like Detroit, do it.
Okay. So, they're not going to be able to trade Kirk Cousins at this point. This is why I think that they signed Kirk Cousins, because they could always trade him later on. They could trade him before the deadline. Let's say next year things go into the tank again, by the way. They have that opportunity to trade him at some point during the regular season. Justin Jefferson, though, you talk about the elephant in the room. He's going to command a huge salary and a huge hit on that salary cap. So do I dare say it? Do they trade Justin Jefferson, try and get a boatload of picks, and perhaps look beyond next year, maybe a couple years down the road, and get that quarterback that they so desperately need and maybe another offensive lineman?
I would dangle JJ on the market. If
think you
somebody
have to.
shoots you a text or, makes communication via Instagram or whatever they do nowadays, I don't think they call anybody anymore or send a fax. But you got to listen because, look, I believe even if Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson play all 17 regular season games next year, I don't think this is a team that's close to the Super Bowl. And that's the goal here, folks. It isn't about what happened last season.
Right.
Well, get to the playoffs and then go one and done, flame out against the New York Giants. This is about winning and advancing in the postseason and getting to the coveted Super Bowl. I mean, it's been 40-plus years. What, 45 now? It's
at least.
It's ridiculous.
1977 season, right?
Yeah, 77, and we're in 2024.
That would be 47 years now.
Wow. They're coming on 50.
Yeah, they're coming on the 50-year anniversary of not making
we
it to
make
a Super
fun of the
Bowl.
Gophers and not going to the Rose Bowl since 1961. Well, the Minnesota Vikings are getting into that, territory. In fact, their last Super Bowl was at the Rose Bowl.
Oh,
but the Gophers get to go there next year.
Yeah, the
regular season.
The Gophers are going to be at the Rose Bowl, not in the Rose Bowl, but at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. They get to go to Pasadena and Ann Arbor. Big house.
Yeah. Oh boy, that's not looking too good right now, is it?
No, not against Michigan.
How many Big Ten games do you think they're going to win next?
I think the jug stays in Ann Arbor.
Yes.
All right, stick around. We're going to talk with the governor. That's right. Tim Walz in the house coming up.
Talking sports.
10K takes your purple ticket.
In Lakeville, Minnesota, dozens of meeting venues are ready to host your next corporate event, banquet, and holiday party. Lakeville has unique conference facilities, a variety of hotels, an abundance of team-building options, and dining that are sure to impress. For suggestions that suit your needs, please call the Lakeville Convention and Visitors Bureau at 952-469-2020 or go to visitlakeville.org. Lakeville, we mean business.
The excitement is real at Fond du Lac Casino. With over 650 slots to play, there's always something going on right in the heart of downtown Duluth. Come in to enjoy 2 floors of entertainment where you'll find some of the hottest new games along with a number of the old favorites. Play at your comfort level all the way up to high stakes where the payouts can be huge. Relax in a comfortable atmosphere and maybe get a beverage while you gather and have fun with your friends. Open 7 days a week so you can
have a great time out at Fond du Lac.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Welcome back, 10,000 Takes, and we're going to be joined in a few moments here by a guy who loves to talk sports, but doesn't often get to in a setting like this. So let's bring him in right now, the governor of the state of Minnesota. Well, Governor Walz, a chance to talk sports in a little bit different setting for a change for you.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. And yeah, I like to talk about sports. I always said it's a big part of all of our lives.
All right, Governor, one of the top stories in the NBA so far this season has been the Minnesota Timberwolves. They've been sailing along. They're on top of the Western Conference in the association. But the sidebar to all of that is they play at Target Center, one of the oldest venues in the NBA, and Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez, the new owners, they're going to want a new playpen. Where do you land on funding for a Timberwolves arena?
Well, yeah, and I was mentioning to Wally, like we talked about the weather's getting cold, and as your governor, the first thing I thought is good. No one will fall through, Red Lake. That's a good thing. So you have a different perception. So the Wolves are winning. Target Center's aging. We know the proposal on Xcel. Look, I've made the case that I think these public-private partnerships are smart. And I do believe, and again, having a daughter who got to play a high school soccer final in US Bank Stadium when it first opened, it's a great memory. That facility's used, 300 plus days out of the year. And I think you've got to stay modern. There's an expectation on what fans want to see. We partner together. And I think the value added, I think the public's right. You can't just arbitrarily say, look, this is good for us or whatever. Put it down on the dollars that it impacts. Put it down on the well-being. I mean, think about us not having professional teams or having the capacity to do this. I think it erodes quality of life. I think there's less incentive, especially for our large corporate partners, to hire executives. If you come here, look, Timberwolf tickets are a hot item right now. That helps recruit talent to the cities. So I think we work together on them. I think we need to, and I've made this case, and I know they probably don't want to do this. I think we need a master plan in the rotation of how these things are done, rather than it feels like there's a scramble at the Capitol every year or whatever for stadium. I think we need a master plan, and I think we've done it pretty well. Look, we paid off the mortgage 20 years early and saved over a $250 million in dollars on US Bank Stadium. We can do these things smartly, and I just think it's that public-private collaboration that gets us the best deal.
You mentioned the Xcel Energy Center, which many consider, maybe the top arena in the nation, maybe in North America for that matter. The X and the Minnesota Wild now want an upgrade to that facility. Does the Xcel Energy Center need public money in order to get that upgrade, and why?
Well, this is the discussion we have. And look, I think this is where I reply, I listen to the experts on this. I've got some expertise. I can shoot artillery. I can teach geography. I know a little about government. I think capacity, long-term projections on usage, number of people you can move, parking issues and all that. I think you put it together. I do trust the people who run these, Craig and the folks who own these franchises. Look, they want to do a return on the dollar to them, but they also recognize it has to be a fan experience. And when it comes to sports, it's different than just, an average customer. They're loyal to you and they expect to be treated in a certain way. So I think, I do think it makes sense to have public partners in this, but I think the public is asking, look, we're seeing these very rich owners be able to make some money. Are they not investing back in? I think the trick here is to make the case very transparently to the public, what's going into this and what benefit they get. And what is the benefit, say, for a taxpayer in St. Paul who doesn't go to hockey games or whatever. And that's where I think, again, you make the case of what these facilities are used for, the amount of revenue they bring in, helping keep property taxes lower if possible. So I think you assess where it's at. I recognize, look, the world changes quickly.
All right, let's move on to US Bank Stadium. And this question has been bothering me for quite some time. Do we really need to spend $62 million for a security fence around a building that is supposed to be called the People's Stadium? I don't see one around Target Field. I don't see one around the Xcel Energy Center. I don't see one around Lambeau Field. So for something that is really non-existent across the map of, Major League sports, why does US Bank Stadium need a fence around it?
And I think, unfortunately, we live in a world where things change. I said the same thing, whether it's around the Capitol building. Now you see the stuff that comes out of the ground to prevent folks from driving onto the grounds or whatever it might be. I think the experts and the security experts and the flow of traffic and the flow of pedestrian folks think that it might be, if they come in that, look, this is needed. These are the things we have. We're hosting a Super Bowl. These things become, unfortunately, targets of those folks who want to cause problems. But I do think you're right on how we think about it. It's kind of evolved from something that was more, aesthetically, you don't want a chain link fence around the place, but what does it take to do it? And I think the average taxpayer is saying $62 million is a pretty big fence. What is this going to look like? What's going to be? I would go back again to you, Wally, and just, listening to the experts where they're at, trying to do those assessments. And then you do the cost benefit analysis of doing something like this. I do think one of the problems is that the ongoing, long-term maintenance of these facilities, to depend back on the legislature or whatever, is probably not the best way to do this. And that may be one that somehow, whether it, the seating fees or whatever it is, there's got to be a way that the public says, look, we help fund this thing with payroll, with a, sales tax. We help fund it through the legislature. Right. The Vikings would say yes, and we put money in too. I think the question the public says, though, is, yeah, but we're not getting the return on the cash. We're getting the experience and the opportunity. And I would make the case you're seeing economic benefit because of this. But I do think that you always have to be very careful, especially after the initial construction, how much you're going to put in. But as far as the security fencing go, I wish, again, I'm always very, I maybe a little bit nostalgic just walking into places where you don't have to. And I was just out in Boston, and my God, you walk right off the street into that stadium. It's pretty historic, and literally off the street. First time I've been out there.
Fenway,
out to Fenway to touch the Green Monster. You walk right off the street. So I think your question is well taken. I think maybe the Vikings, it would probably behoove to talk to the public a little more about what this actually is, what it's going to do, and why do we need it? Because my guess is your buddies you're talking to are echoing the same thing you're saying, and I hear it too.
Governor, we've been pounding the drum for over a decade now to get number 44, Chuck Foreman, one of the iconic Minnesota Vikings in team history, into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This is like a miscarriage of NFL justice. Can you do anything to get Chuck into Canton, Ohio? A rumor has it you're a powerful guy.
I'm going to go way out of my lane here on this because, personal disclosure, I love Chuck Foreman. I actually know him pretty well. Get this. In 2022, the best parade in Minnesota, I know I'm going to insult some people here, is the Turkey Day Parade in Worthington, Minnesota. We raced 2 turkeys down the street, one from Texas, one from Minnesota, Ruby Begonia and Paycheck, and Chuck Foreman and Chuck was the MC, and I was there with him, to give the proclamation. Now, Chuck gets to stand on the stage and tell Viking stories and get cheered. I get to run chasing the turkey down the main street of Worthington, but it's probably appropriate. No, I'm with you. How Chuck Foreman's not in boggles my mind. And I'll tell you, just as a decent human being, if being in the Hall of Fame is about the well-rounded character, because we know we keep people out of the Hall of Fame for character issues, no matter how good they were on the field. Baseball's got Pete Rose out. Chuck Foreman has earned it both on and off the field. So, I'm putting my plug in. Put Chuck Foreman in the Hall of Fame.
Well, Governor, I think we can agree on one thing, that let's get Chuck Foreman into the Hall of Fame. Appreciate taking some time with us to talk some sports tonight. Thanks.
Thanks, fellas. Take care.
All right, he is Governor Tim Walz with us here on 10,000 Takes. We'll be back with more after this timeout. Stay with us.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities, with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
And 10,000 Takes rolling along. And your guy, Marc-Andre Fleury, in the news this past week. He becomes the second winningest goaltender in NHL history, passes Patrick Waugh, trails now only Martin Brodeur. But that's about it as far as celebrating things for the Minnesota Wild. It has been gloom and doom this year.
It has, and you wonder if they're going to be able to make the playoffs. I know some people, and they've been saying this for a while, feel like the Minnesota Wild need to bottom out, finally get in the NHL lottery and get one of those higher draft picks. But I don't know if there's a Connor Bedard out there for the Wild to grab like the Chicago Blackhawks got in the draft last year. First and foremost, congrats to Marc-Andre Fleury, a flurry of wins, right? And I believe he probably looked up to Patrick Waugh. They're both from Quebec. So it's a great story, but that is the pinnacle of the season so far. And I hesitate to say first of all, they want to make the playoffs. We know that. Of course they do. Because what the Florida Panthers did a year ago as an 8 seed and then knocking out the best regular season team in NHL history, Boston in round one. That's why I'm hesitant to say, well, bottom out and don't even think about the playoffs. You don't know in the NHL. No. But I don't think they're a very good team. So I kind of went the circular way to tell you that, but no, they're not very good. They give up way too many goals.
Right. Well, you don't know in the NHL, and you don't know in the NFL either, for that matter. You saw the Packers knock out the second-seeded Cowboys, who hadn't lost at home all season long until they lost to the Packers
and last time
week.
I checked, World Series, wild cards, Arizona and Texas played in October and November.
Yeah, and as a Cleveland baseball fan, that really bothered me that they didn't try to get into the playoffs. Okay, we won't talk baseball, but we will switch over and talk some Timberwolves. I don't think that they're going to need to bottom out. They've already done that. We've done that since, 1989, 90? They've been bottoming out. But they are very good. This team should be a top 4 seed unless something drastically goes wrong here.
Yeah, and the solar system is aligned just right. The Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Timberwolves are now upper echelon teams. I think about that because I used to call the Timberwolves the Lions of the NBA. Well, they've both grown up in front of our eyes. And yeah, for good reason now. So, yeah, the T-Wolves have a lot to be optimistic about. The key is sustainability. And then when you get to the postseason, it's a whole different animal. It tends to slow down. It gets more physical. But I think they're built to win. How deep do they go? I don't know. It better be at least round 3, though.
Ooh. You want them to win 2 rounds of basketball?
I sure do. If you're going to be
well, that's the Western Conference Finals.
And they've never been to the NBA Finals.
No, but they've been. The last time they were Western Conference Finals was 2004.
That's the pinnacle.
Okay,
in franchise history. Well,
all right,
you got to think that way.
All right. Now, if I had a bird in my pocket and it was a crow, I think I would hand it to you and make you eat it, because Rudy Gobert might be their MVP this year. The way he is playing. I mean, he has been a defensive stalwart. He is exactly what they traded for and hoped for last year, but did not really get.
It just took a year to germinate.
Right,
but you're right. Rudy Gobert has been outstanding. And if you look at his resume, he's been NBA Defensive Player of the Year multiple times.
Right.
That's his forte. And now with Cat and Ant, he's part of that trifecta of superstardom. You need to win in the NBA. Kudos to Rudy Gobert. Kudos to Mike Conley, the point guard that Tim Conley acquired.
Right.
So it all looks good, but I still say they're going to be measured on what happens in the playoffs.
You're still not upset about trading away all those draft picks?
If they get a championship out of it,
you're okay with it
because you look at what the LA Rams
kind of like the Rams. Okay,
Stafford. But if they don't, then it's questionable.
Questionable at best.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right, one more segment to go. Takes of the day. Coming up next, you're watching 10,000 Takes, your Rudy G ticket.
The excitement is real at Fond du Lac Casino. With over 650 slots to play, there's always something going on right in the heart of downtown Duluth. Come in to enjoy 2 floors of entertainment where you'll find some of the hottest new games along with a number of the old favorites. Play at your comfort level all the way up to high stakes where the payouts can be huge. Relax in a comfortable atmosphere and maybe get a beverage while you gather and have fun with your friends. Open 7 days a week so you can
have a great time out at Fond du Lac.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
10K Takes on television as we wrap up yet another episode. We'll have takes of the day here shortly. But we should get into Joe Mauer. A lot of people speculating that he will get the Hall call. Will it be on the first ballot, or will he be made to wait a year or 2 or 3? But I think he's getting in.
Yeah, well, he'll get in. And I don't think that folks, when he retired, I don't know if folks thought that he would get in as fast as it looks like he's going to get in. Adrian Beltre is probably the only other guy. We'll know by this time next week, we will know whether he's in or not. And because it comes down next Tuesday, on Tuesday the 23rd. So we'll see if he gets in right away. 3 batting titles, 3 Gold Gloves, 5 Silver Slugger awards. And for a catcher, no catcher has ever won 3 batting titles. I think he's the only catcher to ever win a batting title. I mean, he has been, all that as a catcher. But the problem, of course, is that, the latter part of his career, he spent as a DH and as a first baseman. Now, he became a pretty good first baseman, but he was a light-hitting first baseman. That's a power position, and, Joe was not a power hitter. He had 1 year where he hit 28 home runs. That was it.
Yep.
Contract year, by the way.
Yes, it was. Final year at the Metrodome.
Yes.
2009. He checks most boxes. I would say the smudges on the resume would be no postseason success.
Right.
And as you pointed out, went to first base and became a very good defensive first baseman, but supplied no power at that position where you need to have some pop. But you know what? Joe Mauer, Vanilla Ice, Mr. Low Key, Humble Pie Joe, very likable guy. Now, not charismatic like Torrey Hunter or Kirby Puckett or Michael Kadire, but there's nobody that doesn't like Joe Mauer. So I think, and don't think that doesn't factor into these writers who play God when they make these votes. Because if they didn't, Albert Bell would be in, your former Cleveland guy. Yeah. But my point is, so that helps him, like it did Kirby, although he's different personality.
Yeah. Albert chased people down with his trick-or-treaters.
Yeah, Albert wasn't exactly Captain Sunshine.
No, he wasn't.
That's where you get your angry moods. And we're going to find out. Are you Captain Sunshine this week? Are you a demanding diva? Are you a bummed-out brownie? What are you?
Well, yeah, I let that go quickly, that Cleveland Browns thing. That was a bad deal. But the night before the Browns got walloped, or actually right after the Browns got walloped, I didn't watch television that night because, I didn't have a choice. The game was on Peacock. I wasn't going to watch this game on some streaming service, pay for streaming so I can watch a football game. Are you kidding me? Look, the NFL, Roger Goodell, they collected a big pot of gold from the National Broadcasting Company, NBC, in order to stream the game, in order to not have it available for folks on NBC over-the-air free television. So if people had to sign up, and then the NBC had the gall probably to force Mike Tirico to come on Sunday Night Football and announce what a wonderful thing it was. They had the most streamed game in the history of streaming for the National Football League. Whoop-de-doo. What they've done is they have laid the groundwork for charging you for just about every football game coming up. Now, the NFL should know better. Their success through the years has been because their product has been on over-the-air television and that everybody has a chance to watch it and that they could sell the advertising for buco bucks. That's how their success has started, and now they want to throw that aside because they want to collect money from streaming services. And get ready, someday you will be paying for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, what in the name of Pete Rozelle is going on? That mood meter says you are a grumpy guardian, and you should be. I contemplated driving to Kansas City to be part of that epic frigid game, but they had a blizzard in Iowa, so I said I better not travel down to Missouri. But anyways, yeah, it's a slippery slope. Okay, well, I'm going to teach everybody an NFL lesson here for my take, and that includes myself. Never, ever jump to conclusions in the National Football League, especially with this expanded 17-game regular season. A team can look really good or be really bad and still recover. Let's go back to Week 12, not that long ago. Philadelphia was 10-1. People had them going to a second straight Super Bowl. Eagles are out. You look at Tampa Bay, the team that eliminated them. The Buccaneers, 4-7 then. Now they're into the Elite Eight. Green Bay was just 5-6 at that point in time. Houston Texans, just 6-5. Buffalo was 6-6, had a very small chance of making the playoffs. But the Bills are rolling. So don't ever jump to conclusions in the NFL. You got to let the season play out.
That's for sure.
All right, let's FedEx out those thank yous. One to David Weld, one to Rocky, one to the governor, Tim Walz, and Paul Langfellow. For Wally, I'm Eric saying so long. This is 10K Takes Your Sports Ticket.